looks away, yes! James Tedesco, the captain, he's had some year. He screams over in the corner.
Tedesco's in trouble. Tedesco's still down. He's got to stop it. He had to stop it. He had to stop it. It's a dangerous situation. The Roosters captain is flat on his back.
The ball's been cleaned up. The siren sounds out. A massive triumph on Anzac Day for the Roosters. Sam Walker, brilliant. 60 points to 18.
And Brandon Smith gets one for the Roosters. Walker, Tedesco, Suaalii, Tupu in the corner. The Roosters on the field, they'll show you how to play.
All right, Michael. Sydney Roosters 2024 last year had a season of 16-8. Got through to the prelim final, beaten by the Melbourne Storm. Best attack in the competition. How did you rate their season last year?
Yeah, a little bit like the Sharks, where you thought that, they were easily better than the rest of the top 8, but definitely not as good as Penrith and Melbourne on a consistent basis. And the thing that happened with the Roosters, you sensed that they were building into their season, and they started to make a run in that last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, but it all came undone in that game against Canberra, where they lost Brandon Smith and Sam Walker. Their season was done then, right? I think they did well to put in a really good showing against Manly in that second week of the finals, when Manly had their own setbacks, and you thought, okay, well, maybe they've got some sort of premiership hopes here. But before that Canberra game, I gave them a real chance of winning the competition. On their day, they'll still below Penrith and Melbourne if Melbourne and Penrith are at their best, but the Roosters weren't far behind, and I thought they could have jagged a win against one of those sides.
You know what the thing that immediately came to mind when I started thinking about the Roosters and their season? So a couple of things. 3-4 until round 8, Anzac Day, and that they announced themselves as a point-scoring machine. Their average score per game, 31.
Yeah.
Like, that was the best in the league by a margin. But their inability to beat Melbourne and Penrith, not even consistently, at any point over the last 4 or 5 years.
And that's a narrative that's going to continue.
Yes,
and I don't,
it is.
That's, you talk about hoodoos and the like and rhetoric around teams up against other teams, and that's the way it's going to be, because the Roosters, I thought they'll come in this year. I really did. I thought they were going to get to a point in a prelim where they could have knocked off Melbourne or Penrith.
Yep.
But, that day at Allianz Stadium on that Sunday afternoon, it all unravelled very, very quickly for them.
I was there that day too. So very disappointing for them. And we talk about teams that have players available. They had 14 players that played 20 or more games. Everyone, and Jared Rea-Hargreaves played 18.
But unlike Penrith, who don't lose them at key times, the Roosters lost them.
That's right.
At the business end of the season. And even Brandon. Brandon's had a lot of criticism, but Brandon's form this year was better than it's been over the last couple of years. And his 1-2 punch combination with Connor Watson. I know Connor Watson ended up playing a lot of 13 because they moved Victor Radley to an edge, but that was working for him.
Totally.
And they lost a little bit when Connor goes into 9, starting at 9. I liked when he would come in and play that role off the bench or start at 13 and transition into 9. But you lose your halfback and you're starting 9. And it's easy to make that as an excuse, but it's not an excuse. It's just the reality of what happened with the Rooster season, because before that, they were on a 4-game winning streak.
Yeah.
And, had only lost one of their, and that was to Melbourne, which was the issue, but they dropped one of their past, 10 games or whatever the case may be. So, before that Canberra game. So, honestly, I thought that they were ahead of Cronulla and just below Melbourne and Penrith.
People are going to say this is crazy, but the prelim, that they ended up losing 48 points to 18, they dragged themselves back into that game. They were down 22-6. This is Melbourne in Melbourne. They were down 22-6. They got back to 22-18. They were coming to get them. And this was a game where they lost their crucial front rower in the first tackle of the game, Lindsay Collins. Yeah. So just like they had the benefit the week before, no Kohler, Trbojevic came back on. But no Collins, beating Melbourne without Brandon Smith, without Sam Walker, with no Lindsay Collins. But they got themselves back into that contest.
I think the Roosters will sit down and think this was a a missed opportunity because of the players that they've got leaving and the players that they had at their exposure this year. So I think, the last year, sorry, I think they'll be disappointed with the way that season ended, just falling short.
So you mentioned Keary, Tedesco, Walker all played over 20 games, but their try assist and their line break assist because you're scoring so many points. James Tedesco had a season almost like no other for him in his career.
Yeah.
Called in late, dropped from the New South Wales side, called in late to play that first game, played well in a well-beaten side for obvious reasons, but then went back to and was playing one of his best seasons for the Roosters ever. Yeah,
it's strange that the fact that he lost the New South Wales and Australian captaincy in his best season over the last couple of years.
That's right.
But that was just the reality of the way Dylan Edwards had performed. But yeah, he was exceptional. And the way they tinkered, you mentioned their attack, the way they tinkered with it and freed up Sam Walker a little bit and Luke Keary and how that combination worked, because there was a bit of a teething problem with that initially and then they refocused and got the best out of their players. Angus Crichton. Don't forget, Angus Crichton and Connor Watson started the year in reserve grade.
Yep.
When the Roosters were playing in Vegas, they came back and played New South Wales Cup in week one. So what a season for both those players. Obviously, Angus at that stage became, one stage was the form player of the competition, probably the form forward of the season.
Yep.
And Connor Watson, it was great to see him play some consistent football, make his New South Wales debut, and really add value to that Roosters side. While I'm talking positively about their 2024, I just can't see it in 25.
Mm.
And this ties into
you
our
will never
predictions.
hear the Roosters say, and I think I've heard Trent Robinson interviewed on this network, and you'll never hear them say it's a rebuilding year, but it's a rebuilding year.
I think it's a dip. I don't think there's a mass rebuild there.
Well,
right?
all
so
right.
When I think of rebuild, I think, all right, they're going to drop to bottom 4. Right?
No, I don't think that.
I don't think that either. I don't think that with them.
No, I don't think that when you talk rebuild. I think rebuild is a restructuring of your roster. I don't think there's any doubt that they're restructuring their roster.
Well, they have to.
Exactly.
With all the players that they've lost and haven't brought in any star quality to replace them.
Does Manu come back and play for them later?
They've always held out hope and they're optimistic.
Yep.
But they won't let him come back on a year.
Right. So
if he wants to come
deal.
back, it's got to be at least a 2-season, or like a 2.5 season contract.
Did you also get the sense that Sam Walker was just about to put himself in the upper echelon of halfbacks in the competition?
It was just they actually were timing their run to perfection.
Yeah.
The Roosters until it all came crumbling down.
So the Brandon Smith one was Elliot Whitehead in the tackle. The Sammy Walker one, there was no one around.
Yeah,
like that was just one of those ones where your knee collapses.
And we're going to miss them for. Forget all about the players they lost. They're going to miss them for half a season.
That's right. That's right. So you can talk about all the players they lost. They've still got them there. You can read them in their squad, but they're not playing for probably more than half the season when you think about it. So can I... Separate issue, but we had our St Gregory's function and James Tedesco was a special guest.
Yes.
So he had an amazing season. He lost the Dally M. Remember, there's 6 points per game. He lost the Dally M by 1 point to Jerome Hughes, who polled 6 points in the last game. So went within a fraction of winning an award he's already won before. He's also a former World Cup winning captain. Do you know that Australia has won 12 World Cups? And except for the first captain, who was captain coach, who's the Newtown player whose name escapes me, all of them are Immortals. And one of them is Cameron Smith, who'll be an Immortal in waiting.
Yep.
James Tedesco.
Yeah.
Does he ever get in that conversation?
No, Hall of Famer. Straight in Hall of Famer. First round Hall of Famer. No debate for mine on that. I'm really choosy about my Immortals. I would have 2 in my lifetime. Well, that I've watched play.
Yep.
Johns is in and Cam Smith. That's all I'm doing.
Jonathan Thurston?
No. I'd have...
Billy Slater?
No. That's what I'm saying. It's got to be the elite of the elite. So if I'm not having those guys, I'm not having Tedesco.
Ron Coote was admitted as an 80-year-old.
I get that. And I think, one player that I think, and I never saw Ron Coote play, but you look at his record, if you're just basing it on record, you go, okay, a player that comes to mind in 30 years' time, 40 years' time, and not to downplay their career, is someone like Cooper Cronk. if you sat down and broke down the numbers and people are looking, I'm talking numbers.
Yes, I know.
Only because I never saw Ron Coote play, right?
Yep.
So I can't judge on and I'm not trying to take away from the fact because a lot of people who saw him play said he was an immortal.
Yep.
Right? But with time, those records stand the test of time. You go, well, I think someone like Cooper Cronk's records in 40 years' time, someone might go, well, look at this guy's record. How is he not an immortal?
That's right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I would honestly, I would give Joey, obviously, and Cam Smith. They're the only two that I would make immortals of the guys that I've watched.
And to be honest, I agree with you. James Tedesco won't be an immortal. But if you look at that and you look at his numbers and what he did as captain of Australia. So you're right about, so for example, if you looked at the career of Peter Sterling up against Cooper Cronk and looked at the statistics, Cronk blows him out of the water.
He blows everyone out of the water. He blows Andrew Johns out of the water.
But was Cronk a better player than Peter Sterling?
Of course not. No.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
By comparing Andrew Johns, and I've got Thurston ahead.
Hang on, I don't know how these stats blow Andrew Johns out of the water. You're just talking grand finals there.
Grand finals, games played, tests, origins.
I think Joey got him for origin. Test matches, Cooper Cronk blows him out of the water.
Cooper Cronk's record would be second to Cam Smith in terms of individual achievements across the game.
No. Jonathan Thurston won 4 Golden Boots. Joey won 3.
2 premierships.
Joey won 3 Dally M's, didn't he?
The Golden Boot has lost its luster.
I understand, but it wasn't then. Then you were the best player in the world. When they were winning it, I agree now, it's a different award altogether. But back when they were winning it, it meant, who's the best rugby league player on the planet?
I get that. But no, you look at Cooper Cronk's record.
I know, it's exceptional.
His record, I'm not saying he's a better player than those guys. His record trumps Johns and Thurston's.
His record trumps Jonathan Thurston's?
From a numbers point of view.
Which numbers are we talking about?
Premierships, test matches.
Yeah, but they're team awards.
And how many did he win? 2 Dally M's?
Yeah, I think he won one and then shared one, remember, with Taumalolo.
He still won it.
I understand he won it.
Clive Churchill.
The beauty of it is...
He won a Golden Boot in 2016. Come on, Jimmy. His record is very good.
All I'm saying is the beauty of it is we've been able to get an Immortals debate into the 2nd of January 2025.
It does fire it up.
That's what I'm happy about.
I'd be very boring if I was on the Immortals committee. I would have inducted Cam Smith last year. Straight in.
Cam Smith, straight in?
Well, is Cam Smith... Does everyone agree Cam Smith is an immortal?
Well, I'm not disagreeing.
Like 95% of people say he's an immortal.
And the only ones who don't say he's an immortal...
Don't like him.
Hate Queensland and Melbourne.
Correct. Yeah. So why do we wait?
I agree.
Why?
I said Jonathan Thurston should have been an immortal in his last year of playing.
Well, I'd wait till they're finished playing. But I don't know why we wait to acknowledge people. The Shane Warne grandstand. Why do we wait for these things? Make them happen now. Acknowledge them.
All right. Who's missing out right now that shouldn't be?
Cam Smith.
In any sport, you'll say Cam Smith should be an immortal. I don't disagree with you. Put him in. It's the wait time of 5 years, and that's nearly up too. He retired in 2020.
Well, no, he could have gone in last year because they got rid of that. Rule.
Oh, it was 3. It became 3 years, didn't it?
Yeah, it was the Cam Smith rule. So he was eligible last year.
Like the Giddo law.
Yes. I get that reference.
Yeah, the rugby reference. I love it. Okay, yes, I agree. Cam Smith will be an immortal of the game, and deservedly so, no doubt about it. Jonathan Thurston kept Cooper Cronk out of his State of Origin team. You know that he was on the bench.
Oh, okay. And Andrew Johns played hooker for Australia.
Yeah.
Jeff Tuvey kept him out.
Yeah, but that's only crazy selections.
Okay,
you're going to say Mel's crazy selections.
No, I'm not. I'm just look. I'm not saying Jonathan Thurston. Okay, Jonathan Thurston was a superior player to Cooper Cronk.
Right. So I agree with that.
That's right. I'm just saying if you sat down in 40 years, had he not seen him play, 50 years, and go, look at those records. That Cooper Cronk guy.
The beauty of it is in 40 years' time, they'll wheel you out and they'll say, long-time respected rugby league journalist Michael Carianis has looked at the numbers.
And I still don't have anyone else. But if you look, when I say Smith and Johns, okay?
Yeah.
In 20 years' time, if Jonathan Thurston is still the next best player that I've seen, or Billy Slater's the next best player that I've seen, having watched a lot more football, then I'd probably induct them as immortals.
And that's what I say. Like, I was talking to someone who was, I can't remember, but we were saying, will Darren Lockyer ever be an immortal? See, I think he has got a compelling.
Yeah.
And if you looked at that and I said, well, Ron Coote was at 80.
Yeah.
So that there's a long way to go.
And that's my point too, because in 20 years' time, I might sit back and go, man, Billy Slater, no one has come close to him. So that puts him back up in that top echelon. So all these guys we're talking about are Hall of Famers, right? It's that break between Smith and Johns to see who could be Immortals for me.
Here we go. Recency bias is why we wait, boys. If they're still being spoken about as greats post their careers, then put them into the discussion, says Anthony. I think we all agree to a degree is the way I would frame that. All right, keep those texts coming in, 0457 736 736. Your grading for the Roosters was?
B+.
B+. Yeah, I'd nearly go A-, B+. Yep, absolutely. All right. You know, Michael, doctors say a proper breakfast includes eggs, bacon, and breakfast with Vossy and Brandy. So get your daily fix through our socials and listen live on SEN Radio.